Welcome to a forward-looking exploration of what happens when AI fundamentally reshapes work and the economy. Over the next slides, we'll walk through technological drivers, economic risks, social impacts, and potential policy responses, giving you a clear map of scenarios and choices as labor increasingly automates and societies adapt to that reality. This slide traces how advances in large language models, computer vision, and dexterous robotics compound into faster task automation, and how self-improving systems can accelerate an engineering challenge that moves us from narrow AI toward broader competence, making the idea of near-complete job automation a realistic, rapidly advancing possibility rather than a distant fantasy. Here we outline a possible economic implosion cycle. Mass redundancy erases wages, consumer demand collapses without purchasing power, and firms push for fully autonomous operations to cut costs, which together risk a systemic economic collapse unless new income channels or demand-supporting mechanisms emerge to break the downward spiral. This diagram shows how ownership of AI and its capital rewards can concentrate among a few platform and hardware firms, producing large capital flows to shareholders, while displaced workers lose bargaining power, savings, and upward mobility, potentially creating unprecedented inequality and a political economy dominated by capital holders rather than broad-based prosperity. Work offers more than income. It provides purpose, status, and social networks, so widespread job disappearance threatens mental health, addiction, and even suicide for some, while forcing society to rethink identity and belonging and to develop new ways for individuals to define personal worth beyond professional titles and paychecks. If traditional schooling aimed at employability loses relevance when jobs vanish, education must pivot toward creativity, ethics, interpersonal bonding, and lifelong learning for personal fulfillment. This slide highlights a shift from credentialing for labor markets to curricula that cultivate human capacities unlikely to be replicated by machines. One policy response is government-funded unconditional cash transfers paid for by taxing AI productivity, data use, and corporate revenues. This model aims to maintain basic subsistence and consumer demand while enabling people to contribute unpaid care, community work, or creative pursuits without the pressure to find non-existent jobs. Levies on AI labor offer potential benefits like slowing displacement and funding social safety nets, but they also carry risks such as offshoring, innovation flight, or harming competitiveness. So any tax design must be carefully calibrated to balance revenue generation, global competitiveness, and social equity without producing unintended economic consequences. Removing paid work as the default survival mechanism creates core risks, eroding autonomy and self-determination, generating dependency on the state, and necessitating new social responses. Societies will need to invent fresh social contracts and rights that secure dignity and agency beyond wages, while avoiding long-term dependency traps. Concentrated control over AI, programming, ownership, and governance creates disproportionate influence over resource allocation, information, and norms, increasing risks of authoritarian consolidation and algorithmic bias. Addressing this requires transparent, democratic oversight, public participation, inclusive ethical frameworks, and safeguards to prevent consolidation of power. A more hopeful vision sees robots handling drudgery while humanity enters a creative renaissance focused on science, art, exploration, and relationships, but realizing that future demands governance for wealth sharing, cultural adaptation, and psychological recognition of non-economic contributions, so that freedom from work becomes genuine liberation rather than displacement. To navigate a post-human labor economy, we need three strategic pillars. Experiment with basic income and social safety redesign. Invest in digital literacy and lifelong reskilling, and pursue inclusive AI ownership and governance, all aimed at building institutional resilience that cushions displacement while amplifying human flourishing rather than deepening division.